which is the Gemara for the second day Yom Tov Sukkot. The Mishnah on Tzadik Hey Amud Beis talks about a widow. As long as she did not collect Kesuvos, she's still entitled to be provided for, to sustain herself. But in return, all her earnings go to the heirs, because to the Yisayimim, it's only fair, just like the father would have been alive. But on the other hand, they don't have to pay for her burial rights, because the burial rights, that comes in lieu of the Kesuvah. When the wife dies, the husband yarshas the Kesuvah, so he should pay for her funeral. However, because when she, if the husband dies and then she dies, the Yisayimim of the husband do not collect the Kesuvah. It's only her children who get the Kesuvah, so they don't have to pay for her funeral. Okay, that's basically what the Mishnah says. So we are up to the Gemara here. Boy, minay Rav Sheshes. So they asked Rav Sheshes a question. Boy, cheres limazaynis. So she, the almana, the widow, is entitled to sell different fields, different properties, and which the Tzadik Vava talks about, that she sells some properties either to receive a partial payment of a Kesuvah, or she sells it in order to have food to sustain herself. Now we're going to learn in the Mishnah later that according to the halacha, even if she sold off, she received part of a Kesuvah payment. If she did not receive the entire Kesuvah payment, she's still entitled to provisions, to mezainis. So she can sell a field, some for Kesuvah, some for mezainis. And there's one difference, that if they run out of food, if they run out of money, if the family runs out of money, there's no assets anymore, you cannot go to people who purchased prior land and seize it from them in order to cover her provisions. But to pay her Kesuvah, you can. You go to the Chasim Mishabadim and you take away from them to pay her Kesuvah. So, says the Gemara here, the following question. Let's say she sold a field in order to have money for the family, so that they can give her food. What happens eventually? She wants to collect her Kesuvah, but she sold the last property. There's nothing left anymore. So now she goes to one of these purchasers to seize the property back, but to pay out her Kesuvah. That's the question. The question is based on Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef once said, Malta the Zavin Achrayis Ayasmin, that if a almana sells properties, and that property, the purchaser bought a property, and eventually gets taken away from him for some reason, the responsibility lies on the orphans, not on the widow herself, because she is there as an agent of the orphans. The same thing if the Bezdin sells some of the properties of the orphans, and they sell it with a guarantee. Ayasma, again, if the purchasers lose the property, they go back to the orphans to get reimbursed. Namai. So what's the din? The almana sold a property. She sold a piece of land in order for the Yisayimim to have money to pay her, to give her food, and then she sells another. Then she goes to, there's no other land to sell. She goes back and seizes that same property back to cover her Kesuvah. What happens in this case? Can the buyer say, "Hey, you can't come and take it back from me. You sold it to me," or not? Mine. And the question is as follows: since who's giving the guarantee? The orphans. So therefore, Tarfa, she can take it right back. It's not her. She's not. It's a loan, a debt to the orphans, and the orphans can't pay her out her Kesuvah. So therefore, you can go to the purchaser and say, "Now I'm taking it back in order to cover my Kesuvah. It's not my debt. This is a debt for the Yisayimim. I'm taking it back." Or perhaps they can say, one second. Matzi Amla, the purchaser can say, that true that you're not responsible as the orphans, but not if you're the one who's causing us the trouble. You want to take the property away. You're the one who sold to us, and now you want to come and take the very property away. You can't do that. So the Gemara Amalei to the student, we learned it. It says, she can continue selling down. This was said in the Brisa. She can continue selling the assets of the Yisayimim up to and make sure you leave at least one property equal to the Kesuvah. What does that sound like? The samachla, and that property she relies on to get her Kesuvah paid. Now, shetik b'ksuvos min hashar. She relies on that to get the ksuva from that property. Now, Shmam, isn't that clear? Why does she have to make sure there's still one property left for her to collect the ksuva? It sounds clear. If there's a property left, she can collect the ksuva. But let's say she sold all the assets, she then cannot return and take them back to pay her ksuva. That's what it seems. Says the Gemara, that's not compelling, because Dilma, I can argue, maybe we're just giving advice. You don't want to be known, you don't want your name to be tarnished. So people call you like an Indian giver. Here you sell a property as Mazonis, the next day you come and take it back in the name of a ksuba. You will have a terrible reputation. So we're just giving advice. Why don't you make sure you leave a few pieces of land, parcels of land with the Yisayim, and that's where you will collect your ksuba. Doesn't mean that that's the halacha, maybe just a good idea. Says you want to know if all it is a good advice. Let it just say, make sure you leave a property and you'll collect ksuva from that parcel. My shamachlo. What are these additional words where you say that she relies on it? Shmam and Ashaydi, the only time that she can get reimbursed, she can collect for her ksuva is if there's some assets left, free assets left by the Yisayim. She there's no free assets left, she cannot go back to the very people that she sold the property to with the guarantee and then take it right back in the name of a ksuva. Because they said that we accepted the guarantee when you from other strangers, not if you yourself or the person is going to take it back from us. Okay, Boilu, we have an easy question. What happens, Zavin? What happens if somebody sold a property? It turned out to be somebody sold a property, but they do not need the money. In other words, we'll have more kedusha there. Generally, there's three different levels. One is if somebody, more kedusha talks about it, somebody sells a house, and because he's moving to Israel, and then a war broke out, a COVID broke out, and that's it. Nobody can move to Israel. So we say the sale falls apart, he gets his money, he gets his house back. And why is that? Even though he didn't spell it out, because everyone knew exactly why he's selling it. Otherwise, there was no reason for him to sell it. So therefore, it becomes unraveled. It's not called Devarim Shebelev, something that's in your mind, because it's clear what it is. Then we have over here where people are aware why you're selling it. You want to buy a business or something, so therefore you're selling it. And Rashi just says, we know, word is out there, we know. Or, in case of ads, that you actually told, you didn't make it conditional, you just told us, in the course of the conversation, you told the buyer, I'm selling this because I want to buy into this and this person's business, I want to buy some cows, and then that business fell, the opportunity disappeared. They turned whatever, the business partners decide not to go ahead. So again, here, because you revealed to us exactly why you're doing it, so then we say that it falls apart, but then you get your money back. But if, let's say, it's something which is not so obvious, then just because you thought about it, the reason why I'm selling it is this, and if it doesn't work out, you can't get your money back. Then you have to make conditions. You have to say, tonight I'm selling to you on the condition this and this happens, but if it doesn't happen, then I want my money back. Then you have to spell it out. So there's three levels, one which is everyone knows why, and it's clear 100% that the only reason you're forced to sell is because you're moving to Israel. The second one is that you're not forced to do anything, but you told us that you're selling it. You didn't make it conditional, but you told us why you're selling. So therefore, we say that, as we'll see in the Gemara, that if it doesn't work out, you get your money back. And then there is a normal case where you have to make it conditional. So this is what Gemara is asking. Let's say you sold it for a particular cause, but you no longer need the money. How does it can you unravel the sale or not? Tashma coming here. Who gavra that happened the story. There's a person, the Zabin Ala Papa, sold a property, a parcel of land to a Papa. He needed the money because he was going to buy a few oxen. The end of the sale didn't go ahead. Papa gave him back his land. So we see clearly from here that if the purpose of the sale, whatever of the proceeds of the sale, it didn't work out, you can get your money back. Says the Gemara, that's no proof. That Papa lifnim mishur the sadin david. Maybe the Papa went beyond the letter of the law. That doesn't mean that's the halacha. So Toshma coming here. The Hubat there was sort of there was a skyrocketing inflation because there was a shortage of vegetables and fruits, and prices went sky high. The Havavin was a day, and people, because wheat went to crazy prices, people couldn't afford it. So unfortunately, Zavninu Kula Amal Abdanayu. Everybody sold their palaces in order to have money to be able to buy food, literally. L'soif osachiti. In a couple of days' time, suddenly appeared full of wheat. The containers were released, and the wheat was filled the market, and suddenly the prices dropped dramatically. And there's no need anymore for them to sell the houses. Who the law is the Hadra Avdanu L'Marayu. Every single one of them can get the house back. The whole thing was bought, was sold on a misapprehension, and they're going to get their money back. So we see clearly from here. What is it clear from here? That if the reason why you're selling it is no longer there, you can get your money back. The sale could fall apart. Says the Gemara, no, the Gemara says that's not the reason why. Not because there the whole thing was a mekach tos. Not because that you sold it for a cause and you no longer need the money, therefore you could say that sale is off. That's not the reason why. There the whole thing was based on a mekach tos. What do you mekach tos? This is what happened. Because what happened was the Gloi Milsa turned out to be the Arbe Bakuli Avakainu. Turned out to be that the ships were full of wheat. They're already on the way, but something happened. The rivers overflooded or something. They had to find a detour, and it took a few extra days. So no, it's not like there was no wheat was coming, nothing happened, and then suddenly something changed. So then we say, okay, then that's what happened here. The whole thing because if they would have known that the wheat was already on the way, they wouldn't have sold the houses. They would have waited a couple more days. They weren't aware of that. So they sold it on Mekach Tos. And because that's why it unraveled. Not because they no longer needed the proceeds for the cause that they wanted. And Yehach, I'll prove it to you. The way Rashi learns Yehach is part of the answer. He said, if you're going to make all the sales fall apart, then in the future, nobody will buy any real estate. Nobody will buy any real estate in this town because they'll say, I'll buy real estate, and tomorrow you're going to change your mind. They'll say, hey, the cause is not there, and whatever it is, and the whole sale will fall apart. You're in long term, you're harming them. Nachman said back, wait, tell me every day, every second day there's a famine there, or that there's skyrocketing inflation. Yes, in this particular town, yes, there is. In Herdoi, there is, because it happens very often that there are spikes because for whatever reason, logistics, there's major difficulties in transporting these ships, and it's constantly this happens. And if you are going to say that any sale that happens during these times is based on an erroneous knowledge or belief, and therefore the sale falls apart, nobody's ever going to be able to sell a house, even normal circumstances. So what do we see from that language? So from the language he said, Mishka Shkich is not talking about that, that there was wheat next door and it wasn't sailing, nothing happened, and then they brought it over. How often does it happen? You're not aware of that's going to come. What they're talking about here is that he's saying that even though that this was the way that Nachman him talking about it, the ship was already on its way. And the ship is already on its way, and therefore it's really a mistake because it was already on the way. They just weren't aware of it because of the detour, and therefore the whole problem here was it was a mekach tos. They sold it on the misapprehension that there is no wheat coming. In fact, the wheat was right there. Just it took a day or two longer than they anticipated. But the other way, and that happens quite often, it seems, in the Hedoi. But the other thing that was wheat, a mile away, and every second, third day they bring it over. Then how often does that happen that they're not aware that on Mondays and Thursdays it's going to come? So therefore, it has nothing to do with your question about where I made a sale for a particular reason. The reason is no longer applicable. Can I get my money back? But the Gemara concludes: if you sold something, you didn't need the money. If you didn't need money, as long as you informed the buyer, according to Faces, or according to Rashi, that people knew that that's the only reason why you're selling it, then the sale could be undone and you get your money back. Mishnah. Almana, widow, Bain, Mina Edison, whether she's a widow only from engagement, which means the only thing she's entitled to is a ksuva. The husband does not have to provide, or the husband of the state does not have to provide her food. They never got married. All there is an outstanding ksuva. Bain minhan nesuyin, or whether she became a widow after they were married. So there are two outstanding debts. One is the ksuva, but one is also till she gets a ksuva, whatever, she can still remain in the property and be taken care of. is moicheres shalei bebezin. When she sells the properties in order for them to convert it into cash, she doesn't need to go through the rigmarole of bezin because that takes a long time. And by mezainis, you don't want to, she can stop by the time you organize all the paperwork, the bureaucracy. So we allow her to sell it not via a bezin, whether it's mezainis or whether it's ksuva. That's the first opinion. However, if Shimon says no, min hanasuyin, if it's from married, whether from marriage, with it's also mezainis involved, mechedesh shalei bezin, she can sell and doesn't require a bezin, even if she's just selling for a ksuva, because generally speaking, she also sells for mezainis. Aber mina edison, if she's a widow from Edison, the only thing outstanding is a ksuva, so let her wait. Let's do the proper processes and let's go through a bezin. Because there's no food involved, and therefore it's not pressing, and she can wait. The he repeats it again. The Gemara will later ask why. And any time that there's no mezainis involved, then go through the normal process. It takes longer, so what's the big deal? You wait a little bit longer. Like probate takes a long time. Says the Gemara, I understand why. I understand the view that she doesn't have to go through a bezin and can accelerate the process because she needs food. I understand. Eliminators in my time. What's the logic of the Tanakama? Why is it that if all it is outstanding is a ksuva, that we accelerate the process? What's the rush? So we have an argument, two opinions. My time, what's the reason? We want to make it as easy as possible. We actually have two competing, expressions in the Gemara. One is that we want to please the woman. We want to make it as easy as possible that if things don't go right, that they're taken care of, so that they should be interested in getting married. So we're trying to find favor in the eyes of a woman, that the woman should find in favor to want to get married because they know they'll be taken care of. So that's why we say that even though she only got engaged, if she turned a widow, let's not make a big ordeal out of the ksuva. It's straightforward. Let us sell the property. That's one view. And the competing idea is Tov lemeso tandu lemeso armalo ramalta, that we sometimes we say that she's happy. We had a few times thinking already. She doesn't really care so much. She's so picky in who she marries. She's just happy to be married and have company. So we have like two different competing ideas. Oh yeah, Rabbi Yechon says Rabbi Yechon says the reason why, even though she's only engaged, why? Because we understand that the husband himself would have been preferred that we just allow it, under the radar, don't make a big ordeal out of it, let her sell the properties, because he doesn't want her to be humiliated, have to stand in front of the bezin and go through that whole process. So we're working out what the husband would prefer. Says, my benai, what's the difference between these two reasons? We're talking about a widow from Erisin. What's the difference? The reason is because we want to find, that she should be interested in getting married in the future, make it as easy as possible, or she shouldn't be humiliated. So it's very simple. What happens if she was divorced? She was divorced, she's entitled to a ksuva, and the husband's dead. What happens then? And then he died. What happens then? So we want women generally to be happy to get married, and it should be too difficult. So because she's divorced, it's a general rule. We want to make it as easy as possible for women so that they should be able to receive their ksuva and be interested in getting married again. If the whole reason is because the husband doesn't want his wife to be humiliated, so even though they're just engaged, just fiance, we say, let's accelerate the process. But when it comes to his divorced wife, you think he cares? He doesn't care if she gets humiliated. So then in that case, if she's a divorcee, according to Rabbi Yechanan, she would have to go through the process and go through a bezin. So the Mishnah, we learned that a grusha divorcee should not sell. It says in the Mishnah that a divorcee should not sell only in front of a bezin, only for a bezin. Now, it says clearly a grusha only for a bezin. Now, so remember we just said the argument of Ulan Abirchen would be whether a grusha has to go through the process or not. So if the whole reason is because you don't want your wife to be humiliated, so we understand a grusha. You don't care if she gets humiliated, so she has to go through the normal. If a lender wants to seize a property or sell a property to get his money back, he has to go through a process. He has to go through a bezin. So grusha leich doesn't care. But if the one who says that it's because of chein, then as we said before, a divorcee also needs chein. So we should accelerate the process for her. Why does the Mishnah say that she has to go through the bezin? Says the Gemara, not a problem. Hamani Rab Shimon, the author of that Mishnah is Rab Shimon. And Rab Shimon is the one who says This is the next Mishnah on this page. And Rab Shimon, in our Mishnah, is the one who says that only a ksuva, what do you call it? That only mezainis, you accelerate the process. But he says if she's only engaged, we don't accelerate the process. So grusha, that's Rab Shimon. Says the Gemara, Rab Shimon, if Rab Shimon, why does he have to repeat himself? He already told us in the Mishnah we just learned now that if a woman is only engaged, she's not entitled to sell the properties because ksuva can wait. So what are you telling me that a divorcee cannot sell the ksuva, the property for ksuva only through a bezin? We already know that principle from our Mishnah. Why you have to reiterate it in the next Mishnah? So you're going to know there's a difference between an engaged woman. Rab Shimon in our Mishnah just tells us that a woman is engaged. There's no mezainis involved. Therefore, it's only a ksuva. She can wait, go through the whole process. But we would have thought that Rab Shimon would nevertheless make a distinction between a woman who's just engaged, where there's no mezainis, or a woman who was married, and even though and divorced now, even though there's no mezainis, it's very different. And we were thinking like this. She doesn't really have any relationship with her husband, just merely engaged. And therefore, even if he finds it a bit difficult to get a ksuva, how often does it happen? And she didn't really live with the guy at all. So it's not going to in any way prevent women or discourage women from going to get married. However, grusha, the nafesh chen yadav, a woman who was married and things didn't work out, if he finds it difficult to sell property to get a ksuva, it will discourage women from getting married. The nafesh chen yadav, there's much more chen involved. Maybe Shimon agrees that even for a grusha, let's sell the process. That's why Rab Shimon had to mention in this Mishnah as well. So Rab Shimon, according to Ulus Rab Shimon, says it's in our Mishnah itself. The Mishnah adds a few words. The Mishnah concludes, Rab Shimon concludes, and if anywhere where there's no mezainis, you have to go through the process of bezin. What's he adding with that case? Isn't he trying to add a woman who was divorced? That a woman is divorced, she has to go through the whole bezin. That already is coming to tell you that a woman is divorced has to go through a bezin to sell the property. So what's this Mishnah saying here that a grusha shouldn't sell only the bezin? Sounds like Rabbi Yechanan is right that because we don't care if she gets humiliated. So it goes to everybody. So my love, say grusha. You know why Rav Shimon adds those words? Not to include a grusha. That for that he needs our Mishnah here. What's he adding the words there that any woman that does not receive provisions, she should then sell properties for a ksuva through a bezin. Comes to include a case where there is a suffix where she is divorced. In other words, if her husband threw a divorce to her and it's questionable whether it's closer to her, closer to him, then the divorce disappeared. And now she cannot, while the husband is alive, the fact is she cannot get remarried, because it's questionable whether she's divorced or not. So because the husband is holding her back, he has to continue giving mezainis to her. He has to continue giving provisions. Like Rab Zayda said, that the husband has to continue giving mezainis only while he's alive. And our Mishnah comes to tell you that as long as the husband is alive, he has to continue giving her mezainis. The moment the husband dies, in other words, the moment there's no longer any mezainis because the husband died, then it doesn't really, even though it's only a suffix, she's divorced, but now definitely she's a widow. She's no longer she's no longer, what do you call? It doesn't matter whether she's suffix divorced or not. She's now a widow. So, but because she's a suffix, the question you might think she should be able to continue getting food from the estate, because maybe she wasn't divorced. She's just an ordinary widow, and every widow continues getting sustenance from the estate. And he tells you, no, once the husband is dead, now we go to the heirs. The onus is on her to prove that she was only a widow, not a divorcee. And that's what the Mishnah is coming to tell you. That only if they get mezainis can they accelerate the process. But this woman here, since she will no longer get mezainis, because she doesn't know whether she's a divorcee or just a widow, therefore, she has to go through the whole rigmarole going through a bezin. When we get to Baal Chaim, as I said, so Toshma coming here, just like she can sell without going through the bezin, so too her inheritors and heirs can sell without going through a bezin. The Bishleim makes sense. Lemanda Amar, according to the opinion, it makes sense according to the one who says, because a person does not want to humiliate his wife. The question is, we're assuming that the ones if we're assuming that a woman dies, her sons will inherit her, and here it says, just like she does not have to go through a bezin, so too her children do not have to go through a bezin. They can sell the property straight away and collect their mother's ksuva. So this Bishla man of Vision is Bazish business one is right to be humiliated in a bezin. So he just like he doesn't want to see his wife go through the whole process, he doesn't want the wife's children also to go through the whole process. It makes sense. The one who says he's worried that we're worried that the women should be interested in getting married. So Yeshem Machenika, the sons. What are we worried about here? But when it comes to the sons, we should say, hey, you guys have to go through the process and go through a bezin. Says the Gemara, who told you there were sons here? So Ula is going to have to answer. There's a daughter. She only had a daughter, and therefore we don't want her, and therefore there is chen involved. So we have the argument of Ula and Rabbi Yochanan as to why the Tanna Kama says that even though she's only engaged, she could accelerate the process. It's an argument whether we're trying to make sure that women are interested in getting married, don't make it too difficult for them, or because we don't want her to be humiliated. Next Mishnah. And this Mishnah is going to have the argument if she only received a partial payment of a ksuva, what happens to the mezainis? Does she still get taken care of or not? Mishnah. Machra ksuvasa, she sold the ksuva. If she sold the ksuva, oy miktsasa, or part of it, or mishkana ksuvasa, let's say she took their ksuva and gave it away as security, oy miktsasa, part of it, noslik ksuvasa lacher, or she gave or donated her ksuva to someone else. Oy miktsasa, part of it, like Timkoid as a shard, Ella bezin. That's it. She loses, she forfeits her. Remember, Rav Shimon says that once she no longer collects any more mezainis, any more food, then it's only a ksuva. She has to go to a bezin. This is Tanna Kama's Rav Shimon, and Rav Shimon holds that if you got a part of your ksuva, you're no longer entitled to mezainis. If you're no longer entitled to mezainis, then you want to sell assets to cover your ksuva, you have to go to a bezin. However, the Chachamim disagree. They say that as long as you did not receive your full entitlement of your ksuva, you're still entitled to receive provisions mezainis. She can sell as even 4 or 5 times, and she can, not a problem. Why? Because she's still entitled to mezainis. Therefore, she can sell properties to cover mezainis, even though she got 3/4 of a ksuva paid out already. She's still entitled to mezainis, and therefore she can accelerate the process and no bezin. The Kesuvos Daf mecharti, and then she writes on the document, this property that I sold for mezainis. We're ready for what's yesterday's Gemara, which we'll come to soon. Whether it's a good advice or that's the halach, we'll see. The grusha, and this is what we just learned to before the Gemara, a grusha like timkut elav bezin. But a divorcee should not sell her ksuva only in a bezin, only in front of a bezin. We said it could be this Rav Shimon or it could be this Tanna Kama according to Rabbi Yochanan, because you don't care if she gets humiliated or not. So therefore, only through a bezin. Mishnah Gemara. Maslis man Rav Shimon. Who's the author of Mishnah? Rav Shimon. Why? Because Rav Shimon is the one who says the Tanna Kama of this Mishnah. He's the one who says that if you're not collecting mezainis, only ksuva, you have to go to a bezin. The Tanya Machra Ksuvasa, and it says also in a brisa that Machra Ksuvasa, she sold the ksuva, Mishkan Ksuvasa, gave it as a mashkin. Also Ksuva Paitiki Lacher, or she gave it and it said that this should be security. Paitiki me that Paita Hey Koy. If you have to collect, you'll collect from here. Ein la mezainas, she forfeits her mezainas. She divrei Rameir. Shimon says, Afapi Shalei Machra Mishkan. Well, you say you have to sell their entire ksuva. The Tanna Kama says the entire ksuva. I say that even if you only sold part of the ksuva, elamachtzisa, half of it, of the mezainis, once you got partial payment of your ksuva, you lose your rights for mezainis. So the Mebeda, what does it see from here? I can only conclude that Rav Shimon holds the lo amrinan. We do not say miktzas kesef kol kesef. We don't say that if you still owed some of the money, it's as if you still owed the entire money. We don't say that if half the ksuva is still owed to you, it's as if the entire ksuva is still owed to you, and therefore you're entitled to receive mezainis. We don't say that part is as if it's the whole. We don't say that. And the Tanna Kama obviously says you do. That if you still owed half the ksuva, it's as if you still owed the entire ksuva and you're entitled to mezainis. And we have a problem with that. And the Rabban hold that, I mean, we do say mixes kesef ke kol chesef, that if you're owed part of the money, it's as if you're owed entire money. And the problem is, we learned elsewhere exactly the opposite. We had this in the Gemara Yevamos. And this is regarding a Kohen Gadol. A Kohen Gadol could only marry a psula. Could only marry a psula. So it says here, Tanya, the Brisa, who Isha, it says in the passage that a Kohen Gadol can only marry a woman, bipsuleha. And the fact that it says bipsuleha will come back to, because it could have just said Isha psula. There's an extra UK at the end. Yud at the end, and there's an extra base in the prefix, as we'll see. Prat lebageres. This comes to exclude a bageres. What happens that if she's losing? She's 12 and a half years old, and she lost some of a psulim. She retained some psulim, but she lost some. Rav Meir says we don't say that having some of the psulim is as if she has all the psulim. We don't say part is as if you have the whole, and therefore the Kohen Gadol cannot marry her. However, Rabbi Elazar and Rav Shimon, and the key thing here is Rav Shimon, machshirim bebegeres. Rav Shimon says that if she begeres part of begeres, part psulim, it's as if all the psulim are still there. Says the Gemara, Hasam Bikroy. So it's a question. Here Rav Shimon says that if you only have part of psulim, it's like you have all the psulim, and all right. And by the Kesuvos, he says that if you're owed part of the Kesuvos, it's not like you're owed the entire Kesuvos, and you forfeit your mezainis. What's going on here? Says the Gemara, don't bring here psulim, because there we're basing everything on a pasuk. What's the story? Hasam b'krei pligi. They're arguing on a pasuk. Rameya Sava, this is how it works. Nothing, it's a technicality here. This is how it works. Rameya holds the word psul itself, if it had just said the word psulo without the extra prefix and suffix, afilu mixed psulim, I would have said that even if you have some of the psulim, it's all right. Then it says besuleha, it has a suffix there, that extra yud, her psulim, what's it coming to add? It's coming to limit. No, you have to have all your psulim in order to be able to marry her. Then it says, so that's it. That's why Rameir holds that you have to have all the psulim in order to Kohen Gadol to marry her. Only as part, it's not good enough. Bipsuleha, what's the base in the front? That only bikedarka, if she had relations with another person, only if it was conventional way, then she's forbidden to Kohen Gadol. Shalikedarka, but if it was not conventional way, then she's not forbidden to Kohen Gadol. So bottom line is the basis for Rameir or the Tanakama is because of this pasuk. And Rav Shimon also arguing on how to read the pasuk, but they learn just the opposite. So they hold the word psula itself would mean shleimash. Psula means all the psulim are still there. Bisuleha, by saying psuleha, the extra suffix, it teaches you that it comes to not to exclude but to include. Afilu mix of psulim, even if some of the psulim are there, that's good enough. Then it says bipsuleha, the extra base. We believe it's not coming to be lenient, coming to be strict. We need that all the psulim should be in existence. It makes no difference. She had relations with a person. I don't care if it's conventional way, the non-conventional way, she can no longer live with the Kohen Gadol. So he eats just along the way now, a woman. The tafsa kosa, the kaspa b'ksuvasa. She grabbed a hold of a silver becher as security or as payment for her ksuva. But the thing was, let's say the ksuva was $200, the becher was only worth $100, so it was only a part payment. Katava mezainis. So she demanded, I only got part of my ksuva, like the Tanakama in our Mishnah. I'm entitled to mezainis. Also, the comment that came for Rav, Amaluli asked me, he told the Yisraelim, he instructed them, Zilu Havala Mazainis, go ahead and provide food for her. Lest the Chashal Rab Shimon, we don't follow Rab Shimon, the Amar who says, Loy Amarina mixes Kesef Gechol Chesed. We don't follow him that says that we don't say part Kesef, that if you owed part of the Ksuva is as if you still owed the entire Ksuva. We don't follow Rab Shimon. We hold that if you're owed part of the Ksuva, you still owed, it's as if you're owed the entire Ksuva, and she's entitled to Mazainis. So this ends today's blot, and for our, and we'll come back in a minute. We'll start the other blot. For our normal share, I think tomorrow Cholamoid